What's going on, everybody? It's FREEDO here for Your Overwatch. Today we'll be doing a Git Good guide for Ana. If you would like to submit your own gameplay to get featured in this series of guides, upload to YouTube a full-length gameplay where you lost but weren't sure why, or felt you played insane and your team was the problem. That's a running theme in our channel recently, but even in those games, you can definitely find areas to improve. Paste the link into a body of an email to youroverwatchplays@gmail.com. What I've recently began doing is responding to every email with at least a bit of advice to steer you in the right direction, even if your gameplay doesn't get featured, because of course, I want a lot of examples to make the best videos we can. Today we're going to cover some of the most important aspects of Ana's gameplay: positioning and awareness, aiming properly, and making clutch plays to carry games. First clip submitted by, well, yours truly. I'm not a very good Ana player, was just filling in this game, and I think this shows a great example of not positioning properly to adjust to how the flow of the team fight went. The enemy gets an early pick on us, unfortunately, so they go to rush the objective, and I feel stuck shooting downward at this really awkward angle. I took this position in order to fire towards the bridge, but as soon as the fight gets onto point, I should have rotated either to the back right-hand side high ground to create a longer angle for myself, or even jumping on point into the mix of things to try to get into the back stairwell so I can create a long angle. The next clip will help demonstrate the difference between a long angle and a vertical shallow one. Our gold Ana hero is set up in a position that can pretty easily heal anybody who fights on cart, but that's not the most advisable thing to do, as when flanks come in, we're not able to support anybody retreating or anybody underneath us, and we can just see the massive difference it makes once we start to rotate to a retreat position. Now, this is a long angle where we can see every shot we could ever possibly want to take. Of course, we would have been more susceptible to backline flanks if we play from this position, but every position always has trade-offs. But it's just important to remember that in these cases, you always can look to improve, as setting yourself up for power positions where you can heal the majority of your team and get the most done can carry team fights outright. Here on Streets phase, our Ana player gets ourselves in a similar predicament where we're trying to struggle to hit this low angle onto our Hanzo teammate, so much so he's calling for healing, and the other healer's like, I'm in spawn, I can't heal you. It's like, well, neither can Ana, because we can't hit the shot because it's too awkward of an angle. Not to mention, of course, we're kind of out here in the open when we're in a regroup stage. If this was a higher rank, you would have gotten chased down anyway, but always important to set up angles where you can heal your team, but also stay safe. That is the essential positioning game of a flex support. Next clip, we're jumping all the way up to Grandmasters, where these problems still come up. The player on screen, after watching the rest of this game, I know, has an insane Zenyatta, the type of aim that just blows away enemies, and further evidence that matchmaking really is all about mechanics. This player's so confident, he goes to duel a diva, knowing that he's going to sneak the nade past defense matrix and be safe, be able to heal, and win the duel and force them back. The only problem is, going into positions like this puts yourself in what's called a one-and-done spot. It comes from CSGO, and it basically means you're good for maybe one kill by surprising the enemy in a outrageously aggressive position, but it's not secure enough in order to sustain as a fight breaks out. A player of this caliber with incredible aim can get away with playing like this in matchmaking because you will simply out-mechanic less skilled players even when you play this risky. The problem comes in when we start to go to the well again in this really aggressive spot up left. We're not putting a line of sight onto our tanks, lowering their impact, instead to go for our own personal impact, which can be good, but because we hit the nade onto the Moira, who cleanses it by running away, and we don't get a frag here, essentially what we're doing is trading our tank's lives to go whiff on a duel. This is something that I picked up from listening to Jake cast on the Overwatch World Cup. When you see players go on these aggro flanks, one phrase that they commonly say is this player needs to get 1 to 2 kills to make this work, because essentially what you're doing is robbing your team of the consistent team output you could have had by playing with them to go on a flank that needs to get big value. And if you don't, your team suffers and you effectively put out nothing in the fight, resulting in a fight loss. This is an example of a really egregious mistake. You see the enemy Brigitte rushing your backline. Do not throw a nade to go help your tank. If anything, everyone should be peeling back to deal with Satan herself as she comes and fights you. Not to mention, if you anti-nade yourself and her, you'll be able to diminish her damage output and give her the debuff of anti-heal, making her killable. During that time, you should be screaming for your tank to help you swing on the Brigitte, because especially Reinhardt or even Winston's leap landing on her is some of the most reliable damage to burst down some of that armor, combined with your anti-nade to finally do the combination of 6 or so abilities it takes to kill a Brigitte. And you just have to know when a Brig's in close range on you and you're a squishy, you should just die. Now, the next segment, we're going to go over aim in depth. These first 2 shots onto the far are exactly what I want to see. Careful and accurate shots. Take your time to land shots, because it's always going to be better than rushing out abilities like we do with our nade that whiffs, completely hitting the cart, and our sleep dart, which we just sort of toss out. Everything that Ana does needs to be done precisely and carefully to make it land at all. The biggest jump you can make in your gameplay is just being more accurate rather than being more responsive. This doesn't go for every hero, by the way. It's specifically geared towards the playstyle of Ana. In the backline as a flex support, until you start doing the Jonak level flanks and shenanigans like that, you simply need to slow down and accurately take stock of the players you're aiming at. Because if you don't, you're either going to be whiffing too much or getting lost in all of the chaos and not putting out any value, rather than upping your efficiency and carefully landing impact throughout the fight. Concepts like crosshair positioning and reading animations is something we went into very long depth in this Widowmaker guide, Hard Shots Made Easy, that you should definitely go watch. Yes, Widow is a different character to Ana, but a lot of the principles stay the same. Keeping your crosshair at the right height, preparing for shots with discipline, being ready for the next thing to happen rather than needing to react to it. All of these things play into playing Ana. And to further drive this point home, I want to show for you a demonstration of what it looks like when you rush all of your shots and, let's say, miss about half of them. Against these training bots, I'm going to shoot as fast as I possibly can, but only hit half of my shots. Now, in the next example, I'm going to simulate taking my time to aim, smell the roses a little bit, look around everywhere, in between landing my shots very accurately. And what's the difference? Well, while doing this, I have 8 shots left in my clip as opposed to 2, which is going to dramatically reduce how often I have to reload. But one step further, which one of these 2 clips do you think takes longer to do? Well, it turns out they're almost exactly the same. Granted, it's going to vary based on how long you wait between shots, but I can't stress enough that, especially as you're starting out and improving at some of the lower ranks, you must take the extra time it takes to make sure you don't miss. Reacting faster with Ana is nice later in your development as you get better and better, but you gotta be able to walk before you can run. For example, we're winning this fight. We have a massive numbers advantage. There's no reason for any of us to lose a member, but we don't hit a shot on our Genji for like 10 seconds. We could complete an entire emote in that time, and we end up losing 2 members because we were effectively putting out no healing in this time. Now, fear not, everybody has sections of gameplay where their mechanics aren't up to their standard, but if you're at a lower rank, it's almost guaranteed that you're doing this too often, and you need to spend more time carefully acquiring the target before you pull the trigger. This is the type of thing that if you improve, not only will you win a lot more games, the SR adjustment system will notice it immediately. It is seriously possible to double or triple the number of shots that the players that we're showing on screen could have hit if you just carefully line up your shots and pull the trigger after you've acquired it. Remember, playing Ana, you only have to hit the center of mass. You don't have to go for headshots, and there's a few techniques that you can use to help you out. I only really suggest going for hip fire if the target's really close. Otherwise, you should ADS, but you definitely should learn the Ana quickscope, which allows you to be able to hit a shot as if it was a hit scan when your scope is fully up before you even have to completely scope up. This is done by shooting immediately as you start to go into the scope animation, allowing for your healing dart to get there immediately. Now, this technique's a little bit difficult to use, but you definitely should be practicing it in deathmatch and other modes so that you can whip it out in the clutch when you need it in a competitive match. This will be our last example on aim, and I think this player had fallen victim to overcomplicating what their goal on Ana was. We're seeing this player attempt to do a lot of quick movements, a lot of quick aiming, a lot of spamming into targets that don't need healing. Slow down. You're playing a grandma. This isn't Tracer or Genji or even McCree or Widow. You're going to see a massive boon in your output if you work on your efficiency. Because remember, increasing your actions per minute doesn't count if you don't land your abilities. As we turn the corner, instead of trying to maximize every little thing that we do, play slower and read the game as it's set up. Our Zarya is expecting to get healing from our 2 massive healing sources, and we're not even ready to heal her despite her being way out in the front. That's Zarya's job. She's supposed to go and absorb damage so she gets charged. She needs to get healed from you, and if we work on our crosshair discipline to have it on the place that matters, rather than flicking it around everywhere all the time, we're going to really upgrade our efficiency. The concept of crosshair discipline can be quickly described as having your aim pre-aimed onto the most important section of your screen a high percentage of the time. Sure, you won't always know what the most important thing is, but you can take an educated guess, like a player who's in the most line of fire needs the most help, so prioritize that target over someone who's safely behind cover. And in fact, overall, I would advise that playing Ana, you guys probably want to just play on lower sensitivity. It will make it hard to play other characters that need really fast response times, like Winston, Diva, Genji, Tracer, that need to be doing a lot of 180s, but on a character like Ana, playing well, it's all about high accuracy. And one trick that I learned many years ago when I was playing CSGO was that if you force yourself to play on a seriously low sensitivity, one that you're not used to, you will have to learn crosshair discipline or you'll feel like you can't do anything. Because if you physically struggle to move your mouse in a bunch of relevant spots, you will have to learn to keep it in the most relevant locations a high percentage of the time. Now, as we work on those techniques, aiming every ability is incredibly important, but not just your primary ability. Hitting clutch sleeps and antis are so important. On this big retake, we know the enemy has ults, but we toss out a very low value sleep dart that maybe hits the Roadhog, but rather than holding onto it to disrupt this oncoming High Noon, our entire team gets wiped. High Noon is supposed to be a really bad ultimate, and part of the reason why is because he's so susceptible to a disable ability like a carefully aimed sleep dart. Even if you die to it, you probably save most of your team. Same here. When the chaos is erupting and multiple teammates are low, missing this nade on our Rein getting pinned, it's plays like these that change your gameplay from struggling to go 50-50 maintaining your rank and hitting them frequently enough to seriously carry your games and rank up. It looks to me like this player is trying to multitask shooting while throwing the nade rather than aiming the nade carefully to land it in the best possible spot. And it goes haywire because we're attempting to re-aim after we throw it, but it doesn't work that way. You have to be aiming at the right spot as you press E. You can't readjust like you can kind of do with, let's say, a Roadhog hook. That thing's coming out and it's going and it's whiffing. Take the time to center our crosshair to actually land it right over the top of this enemy Reinhardt to get an amp heal effect on both our Diva and our Rein. Landing that means that our subsequent shots will heal them to full much faster and we'll be able to clutch this fight back. Failing to do it means functionally almost no one got healed in this entire segment of time, where we definitely could have sustained if we were able to heal up. This next clip as well, you have to be able to defend yourself in this type of situation as Ana. The tank in front of us beating our face in is massive. We're not trying to hit a Genji blade here who's dashing across our screen. There's a massive German man who frankly isn't going to miss us with his hammer. So there's no reason to do wild mouse movements to try to flick onto the massive Reinhardt who is actually half an inch in front of us. Take the time to slowly acquire the target while you're pressing the sleep dart button at the same time. Let that come out cleanly, and then all of a sudden, Rein is disabled for 5 seconds, giving you the opportunity to heal your team. Missing these kinds of plays lose games. I hate to hammer on about how important aim is, but you're playing a fully aim-dependent hero, and that's what you're going to have to improve if you expect to get anywhere higher than the rank you're at. You have to actually aim better. Guys, it's going to be everything for today's Git Good guide. Be sure to check out our other guides more specific on different detailed skill sets so you can upgrade the skill sets covered today. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and let us know that you're enjoying the content. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because we upload each and every day. So you're going to want to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link to the description is our Twitter. Very active on there. We'd love to talk about the game with you. Come say hi. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.